I know it's been a minute since my last video. I've been working on doing one on a veil of ignorance and stuff like that, and it's not quite perfect yet, so I'm still working on it. But I feel like with everything that's going on, there has been so much conversation in regards to people of color and other minorities and people that have been subjugated for just living their lives. And I think the problem, well, it's really hard because we hold 4th of July so close to our hearts. What else could we expect? We grew up saying the Pledge of Allegiance every day before school started, and most people know at least the melody of our national anthem, and patriotism is something that was held with respect and honor and dignity. And as a veteran, I mean, there was nothing more special than our flag, because it represented against all odds about being able to stand up against a tyranny of a king, a monarchy, or any of that stuff. And then we have these brilliant founders of our Constitution who had the foresight to look and explain what would be the fundamentals that even 200 years down the line that would still help be a guide to our wonderful country. I am such a huge fan of the right to pursue happiness, the fact that we are all equal. There's just so many beautiful little things in there, but I think of it as it's not supposed to be set in stone. It's a guide to help us treat each other with respect and dignity and honor, something that many people have forgotten. There's so much hate and anger in our country right now, and it hurts my heart because I believe we have so much potential to be able to put all of this past. In the libertarian type, we want to have as much autonomy as possible, and that means you do you, I'll do me, and as long as you're not doing something to impede on my rights and I'm not doing anything to impede on your rights, then we're good. And I don't know why so many people have this ideation that whatever your religion or your belief system is, it needs to be pushed onto other people, where my tax dollars have to go and help pay for Christian private schools, when I believe that the Christian ideal is harmful because it leads to blind ignorance and willful ignorance and hate and animosity against people of the LGBTQ community. And I think that just shouldn't be a thing. It just shouldn't. I wanted to stress, though, that when we are looking at what it means to be American, or the meaning of 4th of July, looking at the writings of those of us that do not look like us is a great way to understand their stories. Each of our voices are so unique, and that's what makes us so beautiful. It is the diversity of the United States with new ideas and new cultures and exploring in the world. That's what makes America beautiful. It's that across the amber grains of waves, that thing. It's about adventure, and you can't do that if you just go, this is my America, and you're gonna do what my God says. It's just, I lived that when I lived down in Alabama. I can't tell you how many times I got in arguments riding the bus, in the back of the bus or in the middle of the bus, arguing with somebody over the Union Jack. Like, come on. There's no statue and no flag that is worth more than human beings. And we just hit last night 53,000 new cases. 53,000 new cases of coronavirus. This pandemic is insanity. And there are actually people who think that wearing a mask is a sign of submissiveness. No. It says, I care. I care about you. And I want to protect you because, you know what? I can do this one small thing, which is just a face covering. It could be a plastic shield. It could be a cloth covering. It does not have to be anything fancy. It can be a t-shirt just up in here. That's all you need. It's just to protect you. It's saying, I respect you enough to want to protect you. And I don't know if I'm a carrier or not. I don't know if I have it or not. But you mean so much to me as a human that I think that you deserve protection. It is a care action. And those that say, no, I will not wear it, or I can't breathe in it, or any of those things, if you can't wear it, or you don't want to wear it, stay home. And it's not because I don't want your voice out there. Get on the internet, post videos. You can still have your freedom. But for now, just stay home. So that way, those that are essential and have to go to work, like myself, I have to go to work. I don't have a choice. But we end up interacting with people, and then we need to go to our homes, and then our families get sick, all because you needed a latte, or you wanted to go to the beach, or you wanted to watch fireworks. It's frustrating because I care so much, and those that choose not to, it's a slap in the face. And then our president goes over to Mount Rushmore, a symbol of American ignorance. It is, we as a country desecrated those sacred mountains. And, I'm not religious. I think that that's all buffoonery. But, I think that it's also abhorrent to put these symbols carved into our nature. We need to leave our nature be nature. Our federal lands need to remain unscarred. I can't emphasize enough. We have to stop being selfish as a country. We cannot keep up. Our climate crisis cannot keep up. This is going to get much, much worse. And viruses like the coronavirus will continue to get much, much worse. And it's for people who say, I'm not going to do what you say I need to do. And it's not because we're trying to force you to do something you don't want to do. We just want you to be safe. just like wearing a seatbelt, just like wearing a helmet. It's not because we want to force you to do stuff. This is not fascism. It's, hey, care enough about me back. Care enough about your Mima. Care enough about Bubba. Care enough about Joe Schmo on the street. Care enough about your other Christians to not go to church, to do your church online. Care enough, if you're Christian, be Christ-like. Protect those around you. Don't put them at risk. And don't hold false idols, idolization. That's in your scripture. Don't do it. It's not worth it. If you think about the core of what it means to be a good human, let people, but also if you can do something to help other people, do it. Don't stand by idly. We need everyone's help. We need everyone to be out there and voting. It is your civic duty. And as someone who believes in the Constitution and believes in those guidelines, it is imperative that we ensure there is a separation between church and state. I should also have the right, the freedom to live my life without religion, because I don't believe the same things as you, and that's okay. And we can talk about it. We can have fascinating philosophical questions and conversations, and we can keep encouraging each other to dig more, to try to in the search of truth. And it could be such a great conversation, but we can't have these conversations if, number one, the first thing you do is ad homs. The second thing that you do is stay in your echo chamber and don't even want to have these conversations. And we can't start conversations without giving compassion to other people. Empathy, look, people look down on empathy like it is a flaw, like that makes you so weak. I was a gunner's mate. I'm not weak. I will fight tooth and nail to protect my country. And that includes protecting those around me, but also my community. And I can do that and keep my freedom while wearing a mask, while not idolizing statues of slave owners and colonialists. And I can do that by respecting my fellow humans, whether they be from maybe an indigenous tribe, or whether they be from a minority, a person of color, or LGBTQ. You can do all of those things and be an honorable, respectable, and courageous person. You don't have to dig your heels in, say, no, I'm not going to do it because my Bible or whatever. You don't have to do that. You can hold up your Bible and say, I'm doing this because God is love, right? Because that's in your doctrine too, right? It's about cherry picking. If you're going to do it, do the good stuff. Don't obfuscate people. Don't subjugate people. Treat everybody with respect, honor, and dignity. And don't hold statues and flags over people. I think people forget the reason why we fight for what we believe in is for the people. It's not for the country. It's for the community. Okay. So originally when I started this video, I was hoping to be able to talk about the meaning of 4th of July. I've seen a lot of different perceptions, and I absolutely love what Frederick said. He has such a unique perspective. He was a freed slave, and it is a horrible part of our history, the things that we've done to other people. And it's not something to be proud of. But the 4th of July is supposed to be a time, a celebration of those fabulous guidelines. But seeing what that 4th of July means for other people is equally important. As I said, it is the beauty of our diversity is what makes America great. It's what pushes innovation. It's because we can see the different problems from different angles. We have different backgrounds and education, and we're able to really dig in and come up with some fantastic solutions. So I pulled up PBS. I'll post the link in the description. Hold me to it. Put it down in the comments if I forget. But I wanted to read certain parts of his speech. It's pretty long, so I won't do the whole thing, but I think that it is important to highlight the respect that he showed while also explaining perfectly that people are hurting around us. There's so many people who have things, they have everything that they ever need. They could do nothing their entire lives and still have enough money for their children's. And then there are people who go days without eating. They don't have power, don't have electricity, don't have a safe place to lay down their head. And that, to me, it's just, it feels every moment we are a third world country. And that's ridiculous because we were going somewhere as a country. We were on this upward trajectory, and then all of a sudden we've dropped. And maybe that's not true. Maybe we're just paying attention more to people to this disparity that we're seeing. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we're paying attention more to the systematic racism that we have. And I think that's because change is super hard. I know that I get a lot of pushback from people whenever I talk about veganism or when I talk about equal rights, and when I talk about the fact that trans rights are human rights. And those things are all things that certain people have lived their lives. Every week they go into their churches and their synagogues and their temples, and even on their entertainment, they see the whatever their worldview is gets reinforced every single time. It's like growing up every day and you see someone eating a burger and it being delicious, and every day you see everybody around you doing the same thing, and so you do the same thing. And then when somebody comes on and said, you know, maybe you shouldn't do that because of the fact that someone has to die in order for you to do it, and your immediate reaction is like, no, this is my culture, this is who I am, this is how I was brought up, this is whatever, insert excuse here, instead of actually thinking about what your morals and ethics are, and then looking at the available data and making a decision then with an open heart and an open mind. Because if you go in knowing what your answer is going to be, of course you will find a way for it to fit your narrative. That's what we do. We are pattern seeking creatures. Like, seriously. Okay, I'm such a rambler. I'm sorry, this is already 20 minutes. Okay, let me quickly go back to Frederick Douglass. There's so much I want to say to you guys, but okay, I'm gonna read this. I'll probably read it terribly, I apologize. But if you get a chance to take a look at it and read it, I really do encourage you to. Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of this republic. The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men too. Great enough to give frame to a great age. It does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men. The point from which I am compelled to view them is not certainly the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contend for, I will unite with you to honor their memory. So let's take a second. Frederick Douglass was so smart. He's a genius. He started off when giving this speech, he wants the people that are listening to this speech to be open to what he is going to say. And by confirming where the similarities are, where we have mutual respect, we can then figure out where to go. So I think it's very smart of him to talk about how much he respects the men and the good deeds that they have done, the guidelines that they have created for our nation going forward. And then he says, fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon to speak here today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I, therefore, called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulted from your independence to us? And then he goes on, and I'm actually going to skip a certain part because he starts to go on about the nation's jubilee and the chains of servitude. And I think that it is, it's certainly very important. So that's why you should read the full thing. But I do want to skip down because it's a couple paragraphs down because this is one of my favorite lines. Fellow citizens, above your national tumultuous joy, I hear the mournful wail of millions whose chains, heavy and grievous yesterday, are today rendered more intolerable by the jubilee shouts that reach them. If I do forget if I do not faithfully remember those bleeding children of sorrow this day. May my right hand forget her cunning, and may my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. To forget them, to pass lightly over their wrongs, and to chime in with the popular theme would be treason, most scandalous and shocking, and would make me a reproach before God and the world. My subject, then, fellow citizens, is American slavery. I shall see this day and its popular characteristics from a slave's point of view, standing there identified with the American bondsman, making his wrongs mine. I do not hesitate to declare with all of my soul that the character and the conduct of this nation never looked blacker to me than on this 4th of July. Whether we turn to the declarations of the past or to the professions of the present, the conduct of the nation seems equally hideous and revolting. America is false to the past, false to the present, and solemnly binds herself to be false to the future. Standing with God and the crushed and the bleeding slave on this occasion, I will, in the name of humanity, which is outraged, in the name of liberty, which is fettered, in the name of the Constitution and the Bible, which are disregarded and trampled upon, dare to call in question and to denounce with all the emphasis I can command everything that serves to perpetuate slavery, the great sin and shame of America. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will use the severest language I can command, and yet not one word shall escape me that any man whose judgment is not blinded by prejudice, or who is not at heart a slave holder, shall not confess to be right and just. But I fancy I hear someone of my audience say, it's just it is just in this circumstance that you and your brother abolitionists failed to make a favorable impression on the public mind. Would you argue more and denounce less? Would you persuade more and rebuke less? Your cause would be so much more likely to succeed. Gosh, doesn't that sound familiar? I mean, honestly. America, we must stop and listen to the past. We have been through this. Like, it's so much. I hear that so much as a vegan. Like, if you would, not talk about the ethics of it so much because, it's just a personal choice. Doesn't make it right or ethical. And also, slavery is a great example of what, just because something is legal does not mean that it is moral and ethical to do. And just because I'm saying, hey, this is not right, maybe you should wear a mask, maybe we should be social distance. If you could back up, I'd really appreciate that. Just because I say those things is not because I want you to blindly follow the masses. It's because I want you to respect my distance as much as I am respecting you. I just want that reciprocity, because I want to stay alive too. And I want my family to stay alive. And I want you to stay alive. So I'm going to try to, I'm going to skip forward again. And because we're coming up on 30 minutes. Oh my goodness. And I know that is going to be a lot. So I do like, he continues on to say, allow me to say in conclusion, Notwithstanding the dark picture I have this day presented of the state of the nation, I do not despair of this country. There are forces in operation which must inevitably work the downfall of slavery. The arm of the Lord is not shortened, and the doom of slavery is certain. I therefore leave off where I began, with hope. While drawing encouragement from the Declaration of Independence, the great principle it contains, and the genius of American institutions, my spirit is also cheered by the obvious tendencies of the age. Nations do not now stand in the same relation to each other that they did just ages ago. No nation can now shut itself up from the surrounding world and trot around in the same old path of its fathers without interference. The time was when such could be done. Long established customs of hurtful character could formally fence themselves in and do their evil work with social impunity. Knowledge was then confined and enjoyed by the privileged few, and the multitude walked in mental darkness. But a change has now come over affairs of mankind. Walled cities and empires have become unfashionable. The arm of commerce has borne away the gates of the strong city. Intelligence is penetrating to the darkest corners of the globe. It makes its pathway over and under the sea as well as on the earth. Wind, steam, and lightning are its chartered agents. Oceans no longer divide, but link nations together. From Boston to London now is a holiday excursion. Space comparatively annihilated. Thoughts expressed on one side of the Atlantic are distinctly heard on the other. The far off and the most fabulous Pacific rolls in grandeur at our feet. The celestial empire, the mystery of ages is being solved. The fiat of the Almighty, let there be light, has not yet spent its force. No abuse, no outrage, whether in taste, sports, can now hide itself from the all-pervading light. The iron shoe and the crippling foot of China must be seen in contrast with nature. Africa must rise and put on her yet unwoven garment. Ethiopia shall stretch out her hand unto Oud, in fervent aspirations of William Lloyd Garrison, I say, and let every heart join in saying, Godspeed the year of the Jubilee, the wide world over, when from their galling chains set free, the oppressed shall vilely bend the knee, and wear the yoke of tyranny, like brutes no more. That year will come and freedom's reign, to man his plundered rights again restore. Godspeed the day when human blood shall cease to flow. In every clime be understood the claims of human brotherhood, and each return for evil good, not blow for blow. That day will come all feuds to end, and change into a faithful friend each foe. Godspeed the hour, the glorious hour, when none on earth shall exercise a lordly power, nor in a tyrant's presence cower, but to all manhood's stature tower by equal birth. That hour will come to each, to all, and from his prison house to thrall go forth. Until that year, day, hour arrive, with head and heart and hand I'll strive to break the rod and rend the grave, the spoiler of his prey deprive. So witness heaven, and never from my chosen post, whatever the peril or the cost, be driven. He's amazing. And I see so many similarities throughout this speech. So I cannot stress how important it is for you to go and read it yourself. See the difference of this story. But also, I want you to compare it with our current president and the speech that he gave at the National Monument. The differences. Who is truly trying to divert and divide this country? Is it a person who is blaming everyone but himself? Is it that someone who cares more about statues than the 53,000 people who now have coronavirus? That's what our record was. And barely even mentioning it in his speech. We have so much growth that we need to do, but we must identify where the bad tooth is. You know, when you are going in and you're trying to figure out why something is off, looking for the thing that's rotten is definitely going to help. Pluck it out. Toss it aside. Vote. Alright. I'll see you next time, and hopefully next time it'll be without all the background noise. I apologize, guys. But I really wanted to get out my thoughts. And my microphone that I ordered was sent incorrectly twice. So hopefully the next time I do this, I will have a working microphone and not have to have all this background noise. So I promise, better audio is approaching. Alright, you guys, take care of yourself and each other. Everyone, whether you're here in America or not, whether you identify as male, female, or non-binary, or if you are trans in a state of transition, I just want everyone to know you are beautiful, you are amazing, and you are strong. And I don't care if you're from Alabama, Washington, D.C., California, Illinois, or if you're in a different country, Australia, Europe, Africa, Asia. You are smart. Your voice is essential to understanding our current state. I want to hear your voices and I want to hear your stories, but I can't do that if we don't start the conversation. So please join in the conversation.